We're in Africa, about 1,000 and a half years ago. Humans like you and me do not yet exist, and the first chapters of our history are written by older species who were already very much like us. This is one of our ancestors. He's a Homo erectus, but he doesn't have a name, so it's up to us to christen him. We can call him Yard and Sat. Yeah, that sounds like a great name. And Sati is a word from the Amharic language, the official language of Ethiopia, a country with an important role in human history. And it is there, in East Africa, right in the region of Ethiopia, that lies the Rift Valley, the place considered the cradle of humanity. But Sati's name also serves to show that this Homo erectus is more important than you think. And Sati still doesn't know. But he's about to make a discovery that will change history, at last. And Sat is the Amharic word for fire. The discovery of fire drastically changed the history of our species. It has changed our bodies, our diet, even our habits. More importantly, without fire, we would hardly have succeeded in becoming the dominant species on our planet. Do you know how this revolution happened? So come with me for a tour of the beginning of the human journey on planet Earth. Hello, my dear friends, how are you? After almost 3 years, the science nostalgia is back, and of course, in a different way, but still talking about science in a simple and fun way, and with this fabulous setting. So already leave your like here for the return of Nostalgia Science. Also, click here below on the little red button for you to subscribe, because half of the people who watch Nostalgia are not subscribed. So click here to subscribe and not miss any video. And if you really like my work, you can become a member of the Nostalgic Club, and there are several cool rewards for you, such as watching the videos before everyone else, access to the scripts, names of the credits, a lot of cool things for you to use in the chat here on the channel, okay? So taking advantage, I already thanked the members Super Said EM3, who collaborated directly to create this video and also this new scenario of nostalgia. The link for you to become a member is down here in the description, but come on, it's time to know the history of fire. For a long time, researchers thought that the first bonfire created by a primate would have arisen in what is now China. However, more recent studies have made this idea no longer a consensus in the academic world. The truth is, there's a lot about early humans that we still don't know for sure. But I can tell you a story that will help you better understand how our ancestors may have discovered the wonders of fire. Our investigation can begin here, in the caves of the Klasis River in South Africa. This site has traces of fires used by humans to roast meat and vegetables about 120,000 years ago. 50,000. This may be the first kitchen in history, but it's not even close to being the oldest campfire we know of. In the cave of Kesen in Israel, experts have found traces of an even older bonfire created by humans between 300, 140, 0, 1,000 years ago. And this is not yet the oldest of them all. More recently, in Van der Wijk Cave, also in South Africa, researchers have found signs of what may be the oldest bonfire in history, which was lit about 1,000 years ago. So the discovery of fire probably happened well before you imagined, huh? Right? But we still don't know how this fire was discovered. For this, let's look once again at our dear friend Homo erectus and Sati. The site lives in a dangerous world, but it already has some important resources to survive. Homo erectus had the ability to hunt in coordinated groups and care for sick companions, in addition to using stone tools. Okay, but what about the fire? And Sat knows fire, having seen trees and bushes on fire, whether from lightning or volcanic activity. He knows that fire emits light and heat and can hurt too. But he knows mostly that fire does not belong to him or his pack. It is something of nature. The best Sate and his friends can do is transport fire. A burning branch, for example, can be used as a torch. But when that fire goes out, Sat's world goes dark again. He and his gang know fire, but they don't know how to create it, but Sat is going to change that story right now. One fine day, and Sat finds some rocks and starts playing with them. He throws the stones up, launches against the wall of his cave, until 1 hour and Sat resolves to rub one stone on the other and ends up seeing something surprising. A spark. He doesn't really know what that light is, but it arouses his curiosity, and Sat starts rubbing one stone against another with increasing force and speed to produce more lights like that. Thus, new sparks emerge, and when one of them falls in the dry bush, the world of Sat, his flock, is finally illuminated, and the same goes for the history of mankind. The discovery of fire is one of the greatest advances in Sati's life. Fire makes the nights less cold, dark, and dangerous. Hardly any predators approach the fires, and the few that venture are easily detected by the bank. And probably shortly after Sati used fire to scare away a predator, he realized that flames could be used as a weapon in hunts, serving to corner his prey. After all animals, even the most ferocious, seem to be afraid of fire. So fire made hunting easier. But it also brought more types of food to our ancestors. Cooking ability has brought a new range of foods to our diet. Rice, potatoes, and wheat would never be on our menu without fire. And the fire also made the days longer. But this has nothing to do with the nights being lit by bonfires, but with the time needed for meals. Chimpanzees, for example, spend 5 hours a day chewing crossfoods. However, Sati's food is cooked, so he only needs 1 hour to feed, having plenty of time for other tasks and new discoveries. The campfire made Sat's life more comfortable and also more fun. After all, the members of his band soon discovered a new hobby, staying up late talking around the warmth of the fire. Today, when you stay up late chatting with your friends on the internet, you are just repeating a behavior of Sat and his friends. But the impact of the fire went far beyond changes in Sat's diet and daily life. After all, the moment he lit his bonfire, he did something that no animal has managed to this day: control nature. It is no wonder that after that, the history of humanity was written with fire. We just need to move forward a little bit in time. Thousands of years later, Sat's descendants are already quite different from him. And some of these changes were only possible thanks to fire. One of them is in your teeth. Because cooked foods are softer, hominins no longer needed sharp fangs to tear food apart. Thanks to fire, Sat's descendants already have teeth smaller than him, and much more like ours. They are also capable of more complex thoughts than their ancestors. This is also linked to the first bonfire. Our ancestors had no idea of this, but by cooking a food on fire, they took advantage of much more nutrients from that food. The diet became more nutritious, enabling greater development of our body and especially of our brain. And believe it or not, this brain change also goes through the gut. Cooked food is easier to digest. Then the gut of our ancestors began to shrink. Since the brain and gut are among the most energy-consuming organs in the body, this change has opened up a kind of energetic space for brain development. I don't know if you know, but we have on average 100 million neurons. Only in our intestines. The fire created physical and behavioral changes, as well as geographical and site changes. Nor did he imagine that his discovery would cause his descendants to live in places he never dreamed of. Yes, over time, many humans have left Africa for other regions of the planet. But without controlling the fire, they would never have ventured into the coldest places in Europe and Asia. Think of the first humans who set foot in America. It is believed that they crossed ice bridges that connected the Asian and American continents. Without fire, this journey would never have happened. The moment when man controls fire is one of the most important points in our history. And as the centuries passed, this element became more and more constant in human life. He was involved in the production of weapons and metal tools, and also in the art inside the kilns used in the creation of figurines and ceramic vases. That, of course, is not to mention religion, with torches and bonfires lit in temples scattered throughout the early villages and towns. As I said, our history was written with fire, and that goes for good and evil. For we did not take long to discover that fire was also a powerful weapon of destruction. If at first it was used only as a weapon in hunting, it soon became essential in wars. And here I am talking so much about wars between humans of different tribes, but mainly about the war that humans wage against nature. Shortly after our ancestors controlled fire, the first fires began to appear. Forests began to be burned to create open fields with animals easier to hunt. Time passed. And fires, with other goals, emerged. Indigenous peoples and traditional communities, for example, use fire management to open areas used for growing crops or raising animals on a small scale. These fires, of course, are always controlled and never exceed 4 hectares of land. And of course, they are done with the approval of authorities. The real problem is arson, which has increased greatly in recent years. They are carried out by rural owners who have no commitment to the environmental issue, or by people who want to illegally appropriate some area of land, which are the famous land grabbers. Here in Brazil, the Amazon rainforest is one of those that suffer the most from these fires. Hundreds of species of plants and animals in the Amazon have already been affected by this. So it is important to know a little about the history of how fire helped us evolve and how we can use it in a constructive way. After all, we can only get where we are by working with nature by our side. Guys, now you've seen how fire completely changed our history. And if you like the return of nostalgia science, don't forget to leave a like here below for the return of nostalgia science. You can also sign up by clicking on the red sign up button below. Follow me there on Instagram is Castanhari. And now that you know this story, always remember one thing: fire is not simply the first source of man-dominated energy. It is one of the greatest technological leaps that humanity has made in history. It was thanks to fire that we gave way to animals much bigger than us, and that helped us get to the top of the food chain. Without Sat's bonfire, our journey here would have been very different. In fact, it's very likely that we wouldn't even be here. Thank you very much for your audience, and remember, always stay curious. Thank you. This video you watched featured the research and review of the experts at FTD Education System. To know more about our sources, take a look here at the description.